Alright, how's it going everyone? Derek here with 7-Ply Therapy. Now today we are going to talk about substance use and mental health and how they tie into skating. But before we get started, I want to remind everyone that these videos are not meant to be therapy, but a source of information and skill building. So if you are experiencing thoughts of taking your own life or having a mental health crisis, please reach out to a loved one or call 988 for 24/7 support. With that being said, I am going to be doing an unboxing for my sponsor box from March, and I will be switching out the bushings on my board since they blew out. Okay, so the first thing to talk about is how they tie into skating, substance use that is. If you've been around the skating community for a while now, you've probably seen a lot of skating videos that promote substance use, and then you probably also have seen it going on at your local park or during skate sessions. It's a synonymous thing that kind of go hand in hand. With that being said, of course, I want to point out that just because people are using substances, that doesn't mean that everyone has a substance use disorder. And with that, of course, I'm going to talk about 11 key factors that translate into what would be a substance use disorder diagnosis. So the first one on the list is using a lot or more substances than actually intended to. And that means saying, oh, I'm only gonna have 2 drinks today, or I'm only gonna smoke 1 time today, and end up having a whole case of beer or whatever the case is, and also smoking like 3 blunts in that day or staying high the whole day. Number 2 is multiple attempts or failing at reducing substance use or quitting substances, and that would be like saying, oh, I'm gonna start next week. A lot of the times it comes to that justification, obviously, or making plans to get sober next month or whatever the case is. Now let's see what we've got. Green ply, hard to see. Grip. Then let's open this. Huh. I can't see it. We'll see. Get rid of that. Nice. This is a pretty awesome graphic. I like that they use different fonts for it from previous boards. It's pretty cool. And then, of course, note and some stickers. I like that. Hey Derek, hope all is well. Enjoy the deck, buddy. Revive. Okay, I'm gonna toss that aside and we're gonna continue talking with the topic like I was saying. So let's keep going. We'll open the bushings and get to replacing them on the board since my other ones blew out. Number 3 is putting ourselves in situations where there is more substance use and kind of surrounding ourselves with substances. And that could look like going to parties or hanging out with a specific crowd that we know that's always drinking or using substances. And number 4 is an increase in cravings or urges to want to use substances. Those are pretty self-explanatory. I think I'm only going to replace the bushings and keep the rest of the hardware unless I feel like other changes are needed. Number 5, our substance use gets in the way of pretty important obligations, whether it's school, work, or house chores, things like that. Number 6, it's our substance use gets in the way of socializing or is causing interpersonal problems, or maybe like isolating to use alone or things like that. Number 7, the substance use gets in the way of our occupations or hobbies and other activities that we find for fun. So if you find yourself more worried about substances than you are about skating or other healthy activities, then know that that's potentially one. Pivot cups are still good, it looks like. We just have to replace the bushings, like I said. This top one, as y'all can see, it's pretty blown out. I don't know if it shows well on the camera. Yeah, there we go. Toss those there. Throw the new ones in, and I'll say the red ones look pretty sick, I'm not gonna lie. Number 8 will be the substance use puts us in dangerous situations, and that would include using while driving, or maybe bombing hills while we're under the influence, or skating a 10 stair or something that's dangerous. We'll keep it at that. Number 9 is that we continue to use despite having psychological and physical problems because of the substance use. And that means continuing to drink if you have liver issues, or continuing to smoke and having breathing problems. As far as mental health, it would be knowing that it makes you depressed and continuing to use despite it making you depressed or causing more mental health issues like isolating or things like that. I like that now the red bushings match the red lettering on the board, but we might switch out the board pretty soon. Number 10 would be an increase in tolerance for the substance use, meaning that it takes more to get us in that state of mind that we used to be with less of the substance. For example, if it used to take us a couple beers to get drunk, now it takes us a whole case to get drunk. If we used to get high with smoking one joint or having like a few hits and getting high, now it means I have to smoke 3 blunts to get high or something like that. This one looks like it was starting to get cut into or cracked, but who knows, maybe it's still good. But this one for sure, this bottom one is the reason why I decided to switch them out, because this one just like blew up and there's like a huge chunk that came off it. Technically I probably could still keep using them, but I'm not sure how good they would be because of that. I can always keep them as spares. So yeah. And then number 11, the last and final one, is having withdrawal symptoms from the substance use. We're not going to talk about withdrawal symptoms today. I'll probably leave that for next or another video. So why might all this be important for skating? Now the reason I'm talking about it is because not only do substances affect our coordination, which affect our ability to perform in our sport or in this lifestyle, I guess you could call it, but it also causes issues psychologically, as I was mentioning previously. And that's the important thing to know about it. Of course, a lot of people say, well, I skate better when I'm drunk or when I'm high. And to that, I would say probably not. I would say it takes away the fear from you, so you're less scared to try things. To that, I'll agree. However, to a certain extent, it's probably holding you back from being able to do a lot more things. And I'll leave some other videos in the link that might talk a little bit about that. So the first thing to kind of know about mental health in combination with substance use is that sometimes it's not the chicken or the egg. Sometimes what happens is we just have the genetic component from our family, and if you do. For example, if your dad has drinking issues or has other substance use issues, or maybe your mom's side, not even your dad's side, those are all things that can tell you there might be a genetic component to it. The other one is environmental, which is trauma and stress in your life. A lot of people, especially here in America, have the idea that to deal with stress, you gotta have a drink after work, or you gotta have a joint or something like that to just relieve the stress and get all that off your shoulders. But there are other ways to deal with that, and I've previously made videos, if I remember correctly, on ways to have a more balanced life. However, I do at some point want to make one maybe on meditations and stuff like that. Now for some people, they might use substances as a form of self-medication, meaning they already have depression or anxiety or maybe PTSD, and their drinking helps them cope with the symptoms of those diagnoses. However, the problem with that is that substance use is sort of like a band-aid. It doesn't really fix the problem or make it go away, and in the long run that can make symptoms much worse when we don't have the substance to cope, or when like something happens and we don't have the ability to manage those symptoms. In other words, drinking might take anxiety from socializing right now, but it might grow your fear and your anxiety in the long run, because your brain then justifies that there was a dangerous situation in that conversation, and that's why we had to drink to be able to socialize. And the last thing I wanted to talk about before we go out and skate is that prolonged use can lead to mental health issues. Basically what it will do is change your brain's chemistry, and then whether it's becoming dependent on it or whatever the case is, if that makes sense. But yeah, mental health, substance use, checking over the egg, we don't want it to be either, right? We don't want to self-medicate because it's not the proper way. We want to meet with a provider or a psychiatrist that can give us proper medication that won't have crazy side effects. Mind you, some of them do, but again, I'm not a psychiatrist, so I'm not going to talk about that. But we also don't want to be using to the point where we cause ourselves to have mental health. With that being said, let's get some skating in.